Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's Jim again from Paranormal Fellowship. Here I am out in the middle of the woods out in western Pennsylvania. And it was interesting to get back here. I found some really weird footprints, and they're all coming from my right and going to my left. So couldn't find any structures or anything down there, any footprints on the beach, but if you go to my Facebook page, facebook.paranormalfellowship.com, I'll have the pictures posted on there, and they're pretty, let's put it this way, you can actually see toes. Not huge, but they were big. They were over 12 inches without shoes, and like I said, you can see the toe indentations in there. Now, the reason I'm on today is I wanted to give you a paranormal story. And this paranormal story has been years and years in the making. And just keep an eye out behind me, because maybe we'll get lucky and we'll see a Bigfoot or Dogman or something crossing from the right to the left. My right to left, or your left to right. But anyways, for those of you that know me, you know that I've been plagued for pretty much my whole adult life with going to bed fine. And then I wake up in the next day, taking a shower or whatever, and I'd look in the mirror, and I'd have like 3 scratches on me, I'd have bruises on me, I'd have bite marks on me, and no explanation how they got there, because I wasn't living with anyone, and at the time I didn't have any pets. So it's like, okay, whatever. I actually kind of grew to like it and thought I knew how to control it. First mistake. Don't underestimate the power of an entity or spirit or whatever is attached to you. So I would go out ghost hunting for years, and I was like Zach Bagans. I had no fear, and I would instigate and provoke, and it's like, what are they going to do to me? I already got something attached to me. I can't do anything worse than what I'm already doing, right? So I kept on doing it, and like I said, I went to places like Waverly Hills and Mansfield Reformatory, Haunted Hillview Manor, West Virginia, you name it. I was all over the place. Never got any worse, so I didn't notice anything, so I just kept on doing what I was doing. So a couple years back, a friend of mine found a pentagram in the woods. Again, I don't mention any names, because I don't know if they want to be in my videos or not, so no names. So he told me about it, and I went out there and found it. And it's like, okay, he told me where it was. I found it, and I said, yeah, this is interesting. And what made it really interesting is not only did it have the pentagram on the ground made out of sticks, but there were vines in like a cross, an X above it, with a vine coming down where they were hanging something on it and doing some sort of sacrifice or something, because it looked like they were sacrificing birds, because you'd find small bird feathers all around there. So the one day I met my friend out there, and his wife, and we were sitting there, and I had the K2 meter going, we had the voice recorders going, and we're trying to do a little paranormal investigation out in the middle of the woods at this pentagram. And we're not getting anything. And remember, I'm a provoker, I'm an instigator, because nothing can attach to me. So finally I said, if you don't give us a response on this K2 meter by lighting up these lights, I'm gonna urinate all over you. I'm gonna urinate, stand in the middle of this pentagram, and I'm gonna urinate all over you. I didn't use the urinate word, I was a little bit more graphic. So needless to say, the lights, K2 meter never responded, so I urinated in there. Well, I started getting more and more bad luck. It's nothing, it's like, it's just my life. I get bad luck all the time, not a big deal. So just kept on going, normal, more ghost hunting, more Bigfooting, more looking in the skies for UFOs, that kind of stuff. And then the one day, my girlfriend and that same couple I was talking about earlier, we all went out to this area at the Shenango Dam, where there used to be a cemetery. But when they moved the cemetery, because they were making the Shenango Dam, a lot of times they got to the point where, for whatever reason, they just moved the headstones, and they just moved them across the road, which is up a little bit higher, So when they flooded the river and made the dam, these places became, these old graves and cemetery markers and everything were underwater. Because this used to be a development. There used to be houses and you name it. It was an actual town. So not all of them, not all the grave markers, not all the coffins, bodies were moved. So we came out and we walked there a little bit, and then we did a little UFO thing because this was middle of night. So it was all right. And it's like I noticed, that night, sleeping was a little bit more difficult than normal. It was, more tossing, more turning. I usually, once I'm out, I'm out. And I was going through at the time a testing for that CPAP, BiPAP thing for your mouth while you're sleeping. And they told me that I needed it. They said, normal 0 to 5, you don't need a CPAP. And 6 to 10, you may need a CPAP. 11 to 15, you definitely need a CPAP. And those are episodes per hour when you're sleeping. Well, mine turned out to be 143 episodes per hour. So now I started noticing while I'm waiting, because, you got to deal with insurance companies. So it's not just like, oh, you need this, here it is, you're all set. No. So I started noticing when I'm sleeping, I'm having these really weird dreams. Like I remember I wake up and I'm on the floor. And I don't have any recollection on how I got on the floor. So I'm like, whatever. Must be this, sleep apnea or whatever. So then I remember the one night, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I feel myself starting to go on the floor. And it sort of like wakes me up. You're not in that deep sleep, but still somewhat awake. And I remember I put my left arm down on the floor and go, I'm not falling on the floor tonight. I'm not falling on the floor tonight. And the next thing I know, I didn't fall on the floor. I flew across the space and smashed into the closet doors on that side of the bed. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. And I didn't put much more into it, So then it started happening where no matter where I was sleeping at, I would be pushed out of bed. I would, so it's like, all right, I'm going to start trying to sleep in the recliner because I'm getting beat up pretty good. So now I'm sleeping in the recliner and it's not getting any better. I'm getting tipped over backwards. I'm getting thrown out the side. So I'm like, this is just wrong. So the one night I got up and I'm like, all right, I need to get a drink of water or whatever. So I went to the kitchen table and I went to grab my glass of water, and something pushed me from the back of the head and pushed me right down onto the corner of the kitchen table. Ended up breaking my orbital bone underneath my left eye. And I tried to go to the emergency room because I looked like a Rocky Balboa, when he's fighting Apollo Creed. My left eye was so swollen up I couldn't see out of it. And, naturally at that time, the emergency room's like, well, you just sit in the waiting room. We'll get to you when we can. And I'm the only person in the waiting room. Waiting. Hour passes. 2 hours pass. At the third hour, I sat there and went out and told the security guard, said, I can't wait any longer. I'm just going to go home and put ice on it. So I still got a piece of bone chip floating around in there because, they were, I don't know what was going on, but they said they were too busy to get me in there to take a look and get x-rays. So it's like, all right, no, this isn't working. So got this, CPAP machine. So I broke out the camping air mattress and I put that down on the floor. So I figured, what can happen while I'm laying on the floor? I can't fall anymore. At least here I'm on an air mattress, so I'm going to be a little bit comfortable. And it continued. Even with the CPAP mask on, sleeping on the floor, I started setting up the Sony Nightshot camcorders. And I had the one video where, for some reason, I just got up in the middle of the night, again around 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting on the floor with my legs crossed like Indian style, and I start rocking back and forth. And then the next thing you know, you see me get pushed right over to the left, and I have a little bar on wheels, and I just went head first into this bar on wheels and just ripped the top of my head open and started bleeding all down my eyes and my face and everything. It's like, what is going on? And again, a couple nights later, basically the same thing happened, but this time I went forward and hit the coffee table, and right there across the bridge of my nose, ripped that open and bleeding everywhere. Well, so CPAP machine's not making any difference. I'm still getting beat up in the middle of the night. I actually had to call off work a couple of days because I was in such bad shape. And CPAP's not working, so it's not, sleep paralysis or, any of those things that, these so-called scientists, oh, that's just this and this, until you experience, it's not. So finally, I had some friends of mine. They came in and they brought this young lady with them who I'd like to say she's a friend, but I don't really know her all that well. I would consider her a friend. And she's into witchcraft and everything, which I don't have a problem with anyone in witchcraft. So they come over, and she not only does a saging and crystal session, for every corner and every room of the house, and she puts up little, what do you call them, the little bags that the witches do to ward off spirits and things. She puts those at entry points, and she tells me to cover up this big mirror that it's really got a bad energy to it that I have in the house. And she also, which was the first that had happened, she went through and basically saged and exorcised me and got the spirit away from me. And knock on wood, I haven't had any more episodes of being thrown out of bed or, waking up and getting smashing my head off a piece of furniture or anything like that going on. Because for a while there, I was starting to think I was getting abducted by aliens, and I was fighting them, and this was happening from me fighting with the aliens when they're trying to abduct me, because I'd never experienced anything like this, and I thought I was pretty good with knowing the stuff in paranormal, because I've been doing paranormal investigations since the 1980s. Yeah, I know, I'm an old fart. So be cautious. I'm not telling you to say a protection prayer or do whatever ritual it is. Do what you feel is right. And be cautious, and don't be a provoking a-hole like I was. It turns out there's more to it than I thought. I thought I knew everything. I don't. I'm not an expert. Just like with Bigfoot and UFOs, I've had experiences with both of those. And I'm not an expert. I'm just some guy who got lucky enough to have an experience with them. So I hope you guys all enjoy this little video. I'm going to try and put some pictures up there. Hope you're not easily offended by blood. You all have a good night. And if you notice that I'm out here in the middle of the woods, been talking now for about 15 minutes, you'll hear some crows, because I walked up onto a murder of crows up in the trees, and every time I move, they start circling me. But there's no other critters. There's no other birds. There's no chipmunks. There's no squirrels, and it's like 70 degrees out here. So there's not even any insects. There should be something here. This is one creepy section of woods. Anyone ever wants to come out here, just let me know. I'll be glad to bring you. Y'all have a great night, and stay positive.